Welcome you all to today's webinar on Indo-Iowa-US business collaborations. We are delighted to have with us distinguished leaders from Iowa's economic development and biotechnology system, alongside eminent industry experts representing India and the United States. To formally commence today's program, I would request, and it is also my pleasure to invite Mr. Chandrakant BN, Vice President, South India Region, IACC, to deliver the welcome and opening remarks. Mr. Chandrakant is a pioneer entrepreneur and is a ICF certified leadership coach who has built and scaled high-impact ventures across IT services, digital operations, manufacturing, and leadership development. After a successful corporate career in the United States, he returned to India in 1996 to pursue entrepreneurship. As founder and chairman of Pyrie Group, he oversees diverse investment portfolio while actively mentoring CEOs, business leaders, and startups. Earlier, he founded Theorem India in 2001 and scaled it from a 2-member startup to a 1,500 plus people across 4 continents. Today, Chandra is the Regional Vice President of Southern Region of India of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and also on the founding board of the School of Policy and Governance and the creator of the Pyrie Foundation, which empowers rural youth through education and job readiness training. I would request Chandra to give his opening remarks and welcome all.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Good evening and good morning. So I think I've been drafted in the last minute as the chairman is probably held up somewhere. So it's a pleasure always as the past chairman of Karnataka to be associated with the events of Karnataka. So as you all probably know, we at the Indo-American Chamber are fostering a better relationship between India and the US and helping trade between the two nations and especially businesses from India and Karnataka working with various different states in the US as well and trying to bring companies there to do more business here and businesses here to do more business in the US as well. So with these few words, I'd like to thank you all for enabling this program this evening for us, and wish you the very best for this program and the webinar, and look forward to staying in touch and working with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chandra, not only for just your insightful words, but also joining us at the last moment. With those words, it is really inspiring to see that how ICC and the US relation can keep on strengthening. Moving ahead, I would like to introduce our honorable guests today, Mr. Alan Williams, Business Development Manager, State of Iowa Economic Development Authority, Ms. Jessica Hyland, Executive Director, Iowa Biotechnology Associations, Dr. Michael Cashels, PhD holder, Chief Science Officer and Co-founder, Perspective Therapeutics, Mr. Kavilash Chawla, Chief Growth Officer, PowerPollen Inc., Ms. Jennifer Igo, President, North America, Camlin Fine Sciences, Mr. G.S. Krishnan, Honorary President, Association of Biotechnology-Led Enterprises, ABLE. We are honored to have this distinguished panel with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are also delighted to be joined by Ms. Mary Lyon from Iowa Bio, who will be assisting us towards the end of the panel discussion, and she plays a very important role. The audience will definitely get to know. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us today. It is now time to hear from one of Iowa's leading voices in economic development. For that, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Alan Williams from the Iowa Economic Development Authority. Alan has worked for State of Economic Development Authority for 30 years and has successfully completed 174 different projects, resulting in 24,500 new jobs being created in Iowa and 9.4 billions of new capital investment. Prior to working in government, he held positions in sales and marketing for several companies in the private sector. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Business from Iowa State University, as well as Masters of Business Administration from the University of Iowa. He enjoys traveling for work and pleasure and once lived for a year in China. He and his wife have 3 adult children and live in Indianola, Iowa. It is my pleasure to now invite Alan to take us through the Why Iowa presentation and share insights into Iowa's biosciences ecosystem and opportunities for collaboration. Alan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amrita. If you could cue up the presentation.
Absolutely.
There is some background noise somewhere.
Yes, I'm gonna go on mute.
Very good. Well, thank you for having me this morning, Iowa time, or evening in India. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Iowa and the biosciences industries here in our state. Next slide, Amrita. Iowa is a state, next slide, if you would. Iowa is a state of about 3.2 million people located in the center of North America. If you can find Chicago on a map of the United States, we're just straight west of there. We do have transcontinental connection via interstate highways and train systems to the Atlantic, Pacific Oceans, as well as to Canada and to Mexico. Iowa is well known as an agricultural state. And in fact, we were the #1 producer of corn. Of course, in India, you would call that maize. In the United States, we call it corn. We're the #2 producer of soybeans, the #1 producer of eggs, the #1 producer of red meat, and the #10 producer of dairy products. But Iowa is also a manufacturing state. People are surprised perhaps to learn that 17% of our economy comes from manufacturing, as opposed to the United States average of only about 10%. By way of comparison, India's economy derives about 12.5% from manufacturing. Next slide, please, Amrita. But a lot of the manufacturing is from some of these brand name and other biosciences companies that we have, international and domestic, ranging from A to Z. A, represented by Ajinomoto, a large Japanese company that takes Iowa corn or maize starch and turns it into food, feed, and pharmaceutical ingredients. Z, represented by Zoetis, makes animal vaccines in Iowa. Next slide, please. The largest sector of Iowa's biosciences industry, broadly speaking, is biofuels, tapping into that agricultural expertise that we have. Iowa is the #1 producing state in ethanol, ethanol coming from corn or maize. We have 42 biorefineries making ethanol in Iowa. We're also the leading producer of biodiesel from soybeans. We have 11 biodiesel refineries as well. Next page, please, Amrita. But the fastest growing portion, as we see it, of our biosciences industry is in renewable chemicals production, utilizing a lot of that feedstock that we have in Iowa, the corn, maize, soybeans, and then turning that into chemical intermediaries, not from fossil fuel stocks, and then making those into other products, pesticides, textiles, pharmaceuticals, so forth. In fact, we have a special incentive program in Iowa that can pay up to $1 million a year for 5 years if eligible biochemicals are produced in Iowa. Next page. Thank you. Here's some of the renewable chemical projects that we have seen in Iowa and still working on others. For Bio is a German company that makes renewable natural gas from the corn stalks or the maize stalks. This is the biomass left in the field after grain is harvested. Ranging to Valent Biosciences, a Japanese-owned company, Sumitomo Chemical, which uses corn and soybeans, among other inputs, to make biorational pesticides from non-fossil fuel sources that are environmentally friendly. Next page, please, Amrita. And I should point out that I understand this copies of this presentation will be made available to attendees after the session. Iowa, we know India is a hotbed for human pharma. We do have a human pharma cluster concentrated in eastern Iowa. That's kind of tied in with Iowa City and the University of Iowa there, where we have the Center for Bioprocessing and Catalysis. They can do contract processing for your companies. The College of Medicine and the College of Pharmacy there as well. They do have a research campus there if you're looking for space. And if you're looking for small production runs, 5, 10, 50,000 units of some pharmaceutical product, the Iowa University of Iowa's College of Pharmacy has a Food and Drug Administration FDA GMP licensed manufacturing facility that they're happy to work with you on that. Next slide, Amrita. We do also have an animal health cluster. This one is centered around our other major state university, Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, and their leading College of Veterinary Medicine, one of the top vet schools in the United States. For those of you who are probably aware, if you make animal health products, your products are approved by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. As you can see from the slide there, we have a number of USDA facilities there, which does in turn kind of help foster the growth of this cluster, resulting in numerous private animal health companies. And just recently, Iowa State has received, they have a research park as well, and they've received some funding for USDA-approved laboratory manufacturing space if you're looking for scale-up space to enter the North American market and want a foothold in manufacturing in the United States. Next slide, please, Amrita. And I know this is a very brief summary of Iowa Biosciences. You may wonder, why manufacture in Iowa? Why should we consider Iowa? Well, let's face it, the costs of manufacturing are much, much lower in India as opposed to the United States. But if you're looking to have a foothold in the American market, or maybe tariffs are getting too high or unpredictable, you would probably be well advised to find a location where the cost of doing business is relatively low to the rest of the country. And we think Iowa can meet that for your companies. And doing so in a sustainable way. Iowa leads the United States in the percentage of our electricity coming from renewable sources, 63%, primarily wind. But at the same time, our industrial electricity rates are 16% below the U.S. average. Other costs in Iowa are relatively low compared to the United States averages. And in fact, last year, U.S. News and World Report ranked Iowa as the most affordable state in the United States. So that's just a brief, and I guess I would also should not fail to mention we're a low tax state, corporate and personal income taxes, as well as pro-business climate. Next slide, Amrita. So that's pretty much my brief summary of Iowa as a whole, how the biosciences industries are present here. We would welcome additional inquiries and certainly investment from Indian companies. I'm based in the United States. There's my contact information. Our representative, our full-time representative in India is Delisha D'Souza. Her contact information is given there as well. So we look forward to hearing from you and on with the rest of the program.
Thank you, Alan, for that informative presentation. Even though it was very brief, but it was a great explanation about, and especially, yes, Iowa being the best in manufacturing and of course the low tax, I think that is something that's going to attract everybody's attention. so far, and it also showcased that how is Iowa's strength as a destination for innovation, especially in biosciences and investment and manufacturing. Thank you so much for that. It is now my pleasure to formally introduce our moderator for today's panel discussion, Ms. Jessica Hyland. Jessica Hyland serves as the Executive Director in the Biotechnology Association. She focuses on supporting biosciences entrepreneurs and innovators and accelerating the growth of states for biotechnology platforms, bio-based products, precision and digital agriculture, vaccines, diagnostics, and medical innovation. Since 2019, Jessica has also led the Iowa Biotech, which is a non-profit trade association which was founded in 1994 to unify Iowa's biosciences industry, academic research institutions, and economic development organizations. The association represents more than 100 members invested in Iowa and in the biotech industry. Over the course of her career, Jessica has gained almost 2 decades of experience in government affairs. She worked for the Iowa Association of Business and Industry, an organization representing 1,500 member companies, where she was the Director of Public Policy. Prior to that, she served as the Director of Governmental Affairs for the Iowa League of Cities and later worked as an associate at Davis Brown Law Firm, as well as through her own business, advocating for a wide variety of clients, including nonprofits, insurance, healthcare, and local governments. She graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln College of Law in 2005, where she also received a certificate in natural resources and environmental law program of concentrated study with particular focus on water law. As an honors scholar, she earned Bachelor's of Arts degrees in both technical journalism and political science from Colorado State University. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. And now the floor is all yours and the panelists are all yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here this evening for you. And I'm really excited to present this panel of panelists to you today. We will start out first by, I would like to speak a little bit about Iowa Bio itself. Iowa Bio is a trade association that has over 100 members from across Iowa. And I think one of the key things to highlight is that our members are very diverse. And kind of as tying this back to Alan's presentation, you saw that Iowa is not just, even though we have very strong agricultural commodities, the biosciences do build upon that. And I think it's really evident in our membership. We have a very diverse membership, including food and ag companies, animal health companies, human health companies, biofuels, bioindustrial, really across the board. And we also include in our membership all 3 of our region's institutions. So the universities are also a huge part of our membership as well, unifying the ecosystem. So it's a very great way to have my arms around and my head around all of the different types of companies that are in our state. So really happy to be here this morning representing Iowa Bio. And first, I would like to introduce each of our panelists. And we tried to bring to you a diversity of companies and a diversity of panelists that will speak to some of these different aspects to give you an insight into what they're thinking about with their either building in India or doing business with India, or vice versa, being in Iowa. Kavi Chawla is a senior finance executive and strategy advisor focused on helping organizations develop and execute capital allocation and growth strategies to improve commercial, financial, and human performance. Kavi currently serves as Chief Growth Officer of PowerPollen, a US-based ag biotechnology company with world-leading patented technology to optimize pollination systems for crops. Prior to joining PowerPollen, Kavi was in the investment banking and management consulting industries. He earned his MBA from Booth School of Business at the University of Chicago, a Master of International Affairs from the School of International and Public Affairs from Columbia University in New York, and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics, History, and Political Science from Drake University. Our next panelist is Jennifer Igo. She's the president of North America for Camlin Fine Sciences, where she leads the company's operations and growth across food, pet food, animal nutrition markets from its headquarters in Urbandale, Iowa. With over 20 years of experience in the ingredient industry, Jennifer began her career as an analytical chemist with Chemin Industries before moving into technical and commercial leadership roles. She is known for translating complex technical capabilities into practical, commercially viable solutions. Since joining CFS in 2015, she has played a key role in expanding the company's North America business, including the growth of both traditional and plant-based and antioxidant solutions. As part of an Indian-owned company operating in the US, Jennifer offers a practical perspective on scaling innovation across regions by aligning technical capabilities, regulatory requirements, and commercial execution to successfully bring products to market. We also have with us this morning G.S. Krishnan. He is an experienced industry leader in the industrial biotech segment, propagating sustainable solutions using enzymes and microbes across SAARC countries with global market exposure. In-depth knowledge and vast experience in organizational strategy, business development, leadership development, mergers and acquisitions, innovation and application development, and general management capabilities in a multinational environment. Prior to this, he was with Novonesis for 27 years as managing director and regional president. He worked closely with external stakeholders and decision makers in various regulatory departments to ensure new innovations are approved on a fast track. He's also projected on the opportunity and development of food, bioag, bioenergy business in India and creating more job opportunities and rural development. He is a firm believer in the importance of sustainable biotech solutions as the only alternative to address climate challenges. We also have with us Michael Schultz, the founder and chief science officer for Perspective Therapeutics. Dr. Schultz is also an associate professor emeritus of radiology and free radical and radiation biology at the University of Iowa, which is in Iowa City, Iowa. Dr. Schultz has been a leader in radiopharmaceutical research and the development of new therapeutic medicines and imaging-based diagnostics for cancer for over 20 years. Perspective Therapeutics is currently conducting clinical trials across the United States for 3 new radiopharmaceutical therapies for cancer with a growing pipeline of new products at various stages of preclinical development. The company has grown to over 180 employees with facilities and operations in the US, the EU, and India. Dr. Schultz has published over 90 peer-reviewed articles in the radiation sciences and radiopharmaceuticals, most recently focused on the potential for PB image-guided, PB alpha particle-targeted radionucleotide therapy for cancer. Can you tell that I've had my coffee this morning? I got those words correct, so I'm pretty happy about that. One other thing I wanted to speak about before we dive into questions is our relationship with India. As to lead into this discussion, it's safe to say that India and Iowa have long collaborated in business across continents, and ties are only increasing. Iowa Bio had the privilege to attend 2 trade missions to India in 2024 and 2025 with Governor Kim Reynolds. And under Governor Kim Reynolds, Iowa has recently formed a formal partner state relationship with Maharashtra. And then Iowa Bio, on one of those trade missions, signed an MOU with the India Association of Biotech-led Enterprises, ABLE, which is one of our distinguished panelists this morning. And then for India, ABLE recently reported in 2026 India Bioeconomy Report that was officially released by the Ministry of Science and Technology that the bioeconomy in India has grown to 195.3 billion in 2025, a nearly 20-fold increase from 10 billion in 2014. The report shows this growth signals a larger global shift with biotechnology poised to drive the next industrial revolution, positioning India as a key global leader. With this as background, I'm sure you're ready to hear from our panel this evening, so let's dive in. For ABLE, for Mr. Krishnan, can you please tell us a little bit about your role with ABLE, but then also highlight your organization, who it represents, the type of companies and industries that make up your membership, and then maybe give us a little bit of insight into that report that I mentioned.
Thank you very much, Jessica, and really appreciate both Iowa and ICC for giving me this opportunity. It's indeed a great pleasure to be here today, and luckily I had the opportunity to be in Boston for other activities, so it's easy to join. Thank you very much. And coming to my background, you have already told enough about me. Thank you for that. It was quite elaborate. And coming to the Association of Biotech-Led Enterprises, this was formed about more than 2 decades before, predominantly to support the growth of biotechnology in India and the challenges related to the regulatory and other policy framework, which needs representation. And we are today the only biotech industry body in India who supports the growth of biotechnology in India. The position of president, it's an honorary position which the industry leaders take up, roles and responsibilities to make sure that the overall guidance and support for the association is taken care of. So I hold this position. Of course, it has been a longer time. Now it's 5 years. Having said that, I would say that the reason behind all of us playing an important role, I actually dedicate more than 10% of my total time for the growth and support of ABLE and the biotechnology. We will look at the situation in India where we see that there are a lot of opportunities. There are, as you know, India is a diverse country from north to south, east to west, wherein right from cultivation of crops, right from various other capabilities. For example, Bangalore is considered the uh, sort of tech city, and it also became the biotech city. And in fact, the reason behind that is the institutions which are there supporting the overall biotechnology innovation and all those activities. So we basically wanted to make sure that we are able to make people understand the opportunities. We are also able to make them understand from the overall resources available in various states, which we could look at exploring certain possibilities. So we ensured that the bioeconomy report, for example, as you mentioned, Jessica, it has been growing steadily a double-digit growth. Here again, at least about a decade before, people were not aware about the biotechnology's contribution to the overall economy of the country. And in this, we made sure they went ahead and dissected and very clearly differentiated the bioindustrial contribution, the biopharma contribution, the bioservices contribution, and overall the growth of biotechnology in India. And we see that more and more people are showing interest from the states to say that, can we also look at what are the opportunities? Because they're not even aware about what they could do more. This is where biotechnology and ABLE played a very, very important role. And I should really appreciate here Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who is always considered the biotech queen of India. It was her brainchild that they should have an association, and it was decided when one of the US events in Boston. So today we realize that this makes a big difference. We would like to continue to support and collaborate. The next big sort of initiative which ABLE has taken is not just limited to looking at opportunities or supporting the growth of biotechnology in India, the importance of collaborations with, places like Iowa and the Iowa Association, the importance of collaboration between countries and the association. Here again, this is where we are able to rather do the matchmaking or connect with the startups. And as Alan Williams was mentioning about the various activities which are happening in Iowa, this is going to be a very big opportunity for us to collaborate with states like Iowa, which is going to make a big difference. And I feel that we are just making a beginning. And I will rather mention in my next to this one more about the various industries and other thing. Overall, I would look at it as a very, very positive sort of opportunity between the Association of ABLE and also Iowa. And thanks for the Chamber of Commerce to facilitate that. I'll stop it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishnan. Jennifer, let's move to you. I think what we'll do is go and hear from each of the companies now about your elevator speech so that the audience understands what your company does a little bit better.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jennifer Igo. I'm the North America president for Camlin Fine Sciences. CFS is a global specialty ingredient company with very deep roots in India, globally headquartered in Mumbai since 1931. We have a very strong focus on shelf life solutions, antioxidant systems, and food protection in general. In North America, we support our customers across multiple markets, the food industry, the livestock feed, pet food, rendering, biofuels, and even industrial applications. Our role here in Iowa really is then to connect the global innovation that is happening with our company, especially in India, with practical, customer-driven solutions directly in the market here in Iowa and in the US in general. We work across both the traditional antioxidant chemistries and plant-based solutions, which that combination, especially right now, matters with our customers because not everybody is looking for the same thing. Some need that proven, cost-effective, traditional performance, and others are moving towards the label-friendly or natural alternatives, especially in the regulatory environment that we're in right now. Our job is to really meet them where they are and help them protect the product quality, manage oxidation, and extend shelf life in a way that really fits their business. Camlin has been in the US since 2015, excuse me.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Michael.
Sure. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you to the organizers and Jessica for the opportunity to participate. I'm Mike Schultz, and I'm a PhD radiopharmaceutical scientist. And I guess you could call me an academic entrepreneur. So Perspective Therapeutics is a spin-out from the University of Iowa. And actually, early on in my career, as I was, developing the idea of spinning out this company, we started working with investigators and physician scientists in India, starting in Chandigarh, and then in Delhi and elsewhere now, on new radiopharmaceutical medicines for cancer. And so organized conferences there. It turns out that the infrastructure and the knowledge base in amongst major medical centers and universities in India was very well versed in this new type of therapy for cancer patients. So that was part of the foundation of a company that grew from 3 founders to over 180 people with 3 products in clinical trials. We base our discovery operations here in Iowa. Part of the rationale for that was just the cost of doing business for what turns out to be new therapies for cancer, and looking at early in the company development at places like Boston or San Diego and finding, well, we've got a major university medical center here with a huge biosciences program where we can recruit top-notch students to join the company. And so we built our discovery operations here in India to take advantage of that. Moving forward and sort of thinking about how we really intertwined with our colleagues in India, we were approached by some of my physician scientist colleagues a few years ago to ask if we could help them to make these new medicines available to their patients in India. And through the years, we've had clinical trial type operations there in Delhi at Fortis Memorial Hospital, where we are now building a finished product radiopharmaceutical production facility where we can conduct clinical trials, taking advantage of the expertise that they have there to look at and develop a more detailed understanding of our new medicines for cancer in ways that could help us, globally to be able to make sure that these get made available to patients who need them the most. So really excited about being here today to figure out or to learn more about how we might be able to develop our business in India, as well as help people to understand what a great place to do business it is here in Iowa. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And then Kavi.
Perfect. Thank you, Jessica. And again, thank you to IACC as well. And again, apologies to all the audience for being unable to be on camera. We've had a power outage, so I'm conserving bandwidth off my phone. So a little bit about PowerPollen. We're about 11 years old as a company, and our mission is to feed and fuel the world sustainably. As an organization, we're focused really on optimizing pollination systems. Pollination is kind of seen as the next golden evolution in the productivity of crops. Our focus is very much on corn, rice, and wheat, as they're the primary commodity crops that feed and fuel the world presently. Again, as I said, we're based here in Iowa, and we're very interested in looking at India downstream, both in terms of bringing our biotech, but then also as we look at the mechanization of the systems through which we deliver our technology at scale in customers' fields. So thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Kavi. I want to go back to Krishnan and have us tell us briefly about what you see is driving the rapid growth in India's bioeconomy, and then how do you see that connecting to Iowa's bioeconomy? What do you think are the potential synergies?
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, I should say that as far as biotechnology is concerned, from an India point of view, it has evolved. I should say that way back about 30 years before, when we started promoting biotechnology, the acceptance to biological solutions itself was a big question, and the mindset to, for example, in some of the industries, to go by the traditional methods of conversion and other things were happening. This has changed, and people's concern for the environment and ensuring that actually everything they do has quality in it. So right from all those aspects related to protecting the environment to calling, they have adopted to biological solutions, and it is still growing, and it's growing in a big way. Having said that, it is also the government of India's support to making sure that how do we encourage startups, how do we ensure the biotechnology growth is further developed in India. They see the potential from an innovation point of view and biomanufacturing point of view. And they introduced this policy BioE3, which is nothing but the economy, the environment, and employment opportunity. And this basically created a big boost now, which is happening, which is now 2-3 years old. And this is something which is further encouraging, for example, the states or the provinces to look at how are they going to contribute to the overall bioeconomy for the country. So I would say that broadly, not only the government's push, the government's concern, the government's commitment to protecting the environment, encouraging biotechnology, and they see India's contribution to the overall economy from a bioeconomy point of view is going to be increasing. And we see with the steady growth, and definitely needs support from a biomanufacturing or bioinnovation. And this has actually, the BioE3 policy was introduced. Likewise, they are also having RDI funding for research and development. They also have one which is called the Pharma Shakti, specifically looking at the development of biopharmaceutical sector. Overall, I think the country is now very, very clear that we have the capabilities from a science point of view. We have the capabilities from an innovation point of view. We have the capability from a cost perspective. Of course, we are not completely competing with Iowa. However, definitely India is still one of the cost-efficient country from a manufacturing point of view. Having said that, coming to how we can work together with Iowa, what I see is quite a lot of synergies, and some of the things I should admit that Iowa is far ahead. For example, you are mentioning about renewable chemicals. While we have a lot of opportunities, and if you look at the biomass available from an Indian context, we even say that not limited to conversion of agricultural residues to ethanol, we can look at the renewable chemicals, biochemicals. Though this is an opportunity, however, exploring that or way it has matured, it's still not there. This is where an area where we could collaborate together with Iowa. Second thing is the areas which you're doing the biofuels and manufacture of ethanol from, basically you're talking about corn. Of course, for us from an India perspective, while there is what we call the grain alcohol, we are predominantly looking at how do we ensure that we take advantage of the biggest agricultural residue available. This is again some sort of knowledge sharing which we could do. Probably we could also share something from India from an indigenous technology point of view, vice versa. The other part of it is, of course, the biodiesel, which may not have taken up shape to the level what you guys are doing, an area which one could explore. And what I would say is also the biopharmaceutical area in some of the areas. No doubt India stepped up to show our capabilities from a vaccine manufacturing point of view when COVID broke out. And I should say that India was not only self-sufficient with what we produce, we were also able to support some of the underdeveloped countries nearby, which actually is a pride. And I should also say here, Jessica, that that is one of the areas where people realize the value and miracle of biotechnology. That is something which has also become a big boost for the recognition of biological solutions. And lastly, I would say that animal health, which you mentioned, or areas one could look at it. It's a question of collaboration and understanding things better. Most of the time, I would say that we do have collaboration MOU signed, but what actually Iowa has done with this meeting is a very big step ahead. And I think somewhere where we could do more, and Abel will be very, very happy to support and facilitate. And we look forward to meeting soon in US, Jessica.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was a great summary, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head with a lot of those connections and synergies and ways we can work together. And then you've also heard and you've seen these companies that we have on this panel today as well represent the different types of companies in the different sectors, and I think it's going to be a really fun conversation to hear more. Kavi, if you could speak to, as an Iowa company who's looking to significantly grow your nascent entry into the Indian market through licensing and distribution agreements. Can you tell us what is attractive about the Indian market for PowerPollen?
Yeah, certainly. So when we look at any market, right, it really does start with our mission, which is to feed and fuel the world sustainably. So when we start to apply that in the context of the Indian market, there are two specific aspects, right? So the first is, again, just around feeding and fueling the world. As, again, the largest country in the world from a population perspective, to really move the needle on our mission, focused, again, on feeding and fuel the world, there's no way you can do business and further that mission without really focusing on India. So it's very mission aligned in terms of a strategic perspective. Now, obviously, as a private company, we really need to focus on then what are the commercials and financial opportunities in India. When you look at the Indian market from a demand perspective, and again, Krishna spoke about this, and in particular, if you think about biofuels, ethanol, you think about the need for additional feedstock for feed, for proteins, in chicken. And as you look at the growing middle class and some of Prime Minister Modi's targets of, I believe, having India be GDP per capita of around 20,000 USD by 2047, you need a tremendous amount of feedstock from the grains produced in India. And so from a commercial perspective, the gap between the demand for feedstock for those different use cases and the current production of the supply produced is huge, right? And so from a crop productivity perspective per acre, the ability of our technology to truly be transformative in driving yield in India is very, very attractive, right? And so again, broadly speaking, from commercial perspective, it's closing that gap between the supply and production. Now, when you look very short term in India specifically, it also provides us a really good base to look at expansion across the rest of South Asia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even into Sri Lanka, where, again, you see increasing demand. So again, on its own, commercially, India is very attractive. And then from a regional perspective, so we look to expand maize, rice, and wheat. India also has some geopolitical value to us as an organization. And then finally, as we look at our own kind of 3 to 4 year strategy, a key portion of our growth is driven by the engineering aspects of our business, which is really focusing on how do we increase productivity through a system of mechanized delivery that is through small scale drones that are economically feasible in smallholder farms, right? Thinking 3, 5, 10 acre farms versus the large high clearance vehicle systems that operate in North and South America. Technological innovation when it comes to ag in India is really attractive. And given the structure of farm holdings and the production system in India, there's some opportunities for joint venture partnerships related to that aspect of technology as well that make India a good long-term strategic opportunity for us at PowerPollen. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Kavi. We'll move back to Michael. You've given a bit of background on how the ties of your company, even from the beginning, really do tie with India. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about that, and then also touch on how partnerships, I think you've mentioned that a few times, have helped you carry your company forward in India.
Sure, absolutely. Great question. And yeah, so the reality is that I organized what was at the time I think the third Theranostics World Congress. So this form of medicine that we have developed at Perspective Therapeutics is an image-guided radiopharmaceutical approach that is sometimes referred to as theranostics, sort of this pairing of the words diagnosis and therapy into a single word. And there were experts in India who had been playing leadership roles globally as physician scientists of trying to apply this new approach to cancer therapy, which is now really emerging as a pillar to cancer therapy with huge products for prostate cancer and neuroendocrine tumors that are commercialized and FDA approved in the United States. And so what we used, the relationships we had built, is to bring together in these Theranostics World Congresses, all of the global experts in this emerging technology together to come up with new ideas to how to make this not only what were the best practices in developing these types of radiopharmaceuticals, but also in the context of differences in the healthcare economics of different countries, how we would make those available. And so in that sense, we've been working, from that time period to now to recognize that there are differences in the healthcare economics in India. And so there's some organic growth that is going on there in sort of the infrastructure for manufacturing and developing these new types of radiopharmaceutical cancer therapies that are emerging in India that can help to enable the manufacturing and distribution to cancer patients there within the healthcare economics of India. And at the same time, in growing our own business internationally, our partners there at Fortis Research Hospital make our medicines available to patients who might not have other options under a sort of compassionate use scenario that helps us to develop a more detailed understanding of how these radiopharmaceuticals work and what are the best practices for delivering them to patients for the best outcomes. And so those two things coupled together really form the basis of what is, not only a strong relationship of the past, but one that's, we're building manufacturing facilities there as part of this, business plan where we can make available our technologies, but that they can grow within the healthcare economics of India.
So fascinating to hear all of the ties that were there and how they've grown over time. Jennifer, to hear kind of the flip side of the coin as an Indian company now located in Iowa, and you have personally played a key role in expanding your company's North American business, including the growth of both traditional and plant-based antioxidant solutions. So how did CFS determine that Iowa should have a company footprint? And what did your company consider when looking at not just doing business with Iowa, but actually having a location and capital investment in the state?
Sure. For Camlin Fine Sciences, Iowa made so much sense because our North America business is very closely connected to agriculture, food production, animal nutrition, biodiesel, pet food, rendering. These are not abstract industries here in Iowa. These are part of the economy and the workforce and the customer base. So when we looked at where to build a stronger footprint for CFS, we wanted to be in a place that really gave us the proximity to the customers, access to people who really understand these industries, and a business environment where we could really grow within the community. Iowa checked all those boxes. And so the decision was not just about opening an office. It really was about making a long-term commitment to the markets that we serve, which are very deeply rooted here in Iowa. We considered access to customers, of course, but then also logistics, talent, quality of life for employees, and the ability to really build relationships with local and state partners, which we've been able to do very well here. From my perspective, being in Iowa has really helped us stay closer to the industries we serve and really gives us a strong base to continue expanding in North America in general.
Thank you, Jennifer. Kavi, back to you as we're going to start to address a few challenges here and kind of think about some of the things that maybe aren't so easy to do. And as a startup with important intellectual property and agricultural technology, can you address some of the major hurdles that you have faced as an Iowa startup working to expand in India?
Yeah, certainly. Again, and you're spot on, right? I mean, our short, long, medium, and long-term value is driven by IP, right? We own about 80% of global IP related to pollination outside of China, right? So when we look at markets like India, there are a few different challenges that we face from an IP perspective. And ultimately, as we look at our Indian strategy or strategy in other markets like India, our goal is to de-risk any exposure to IP, because that's where we create, the short, medium, and long-term value for our investors and for our strategic partners. In India in particular, and again, and over the last several years, there's been tremendous positive movement towards the development and strengthening of the IP regime and IP protections in India. That being said, one of the key things that's unique, especially as we look at a technology like ours, is there are no trade secrets protection in the Indian IP environment, right? So as a result, that limits our ability to protect certain methods and other elements of our work that are critical to long-term value creation. So again, seeing evolution on that IP environment that enables trade secrets protections would be very valuable. Number two, again, given our predominantly US-based investors, we do have some large European investors, and we're looking to, expand our investor base to be more global, very centered on a US-based IP framework. So again, when we look at the framework in India, while again, positive steps in the last several years, some of the gaps between protections, both from a de jure perspective, but also some of the gaps that we see in enforcement of those protections from a de facto perspective, create risk from an IP exposure that limit our ability and the downstream financial analysis to justify full and broad growth into India. So addressing those two key issues, both the kind of de jure de facto regulatory environment and expansion into protecting trade secrets, would help us de-risk the IP environment. And then from a strategic perspective, though, given the existence of those risks, we really do look at a distribution and partnership mechanism as a way to enter into India in a way that sufficiently provides us the de-risking of the IP infrastructure and regulatory environment in India at present.
Once again, partnerships being extremely important.
Yes.
And then, yes. And then back to Michael, again, similarly, what are your biggest challenges right now as you are in India and you're expanding? How have you begun to address those?
So great question. And, as I mentioned before, we're working to expand the capabilities for the company globally. So we have manufacturing and distribution at 2 sites now in the United States. We're building out manufacturing for finished product radiopharmaceutical therapies in Chicago and in California and elsewhere in the United States. But the healthcare economics in different regions are just different. And so what we've recognized is that the infrastructure and development of this manufacturing and distribution, for example, needs to grow organically within the economics of India for it to be successful. So that includes, all of the things that are part of the supply chains, part of the complex facilities that are necessary to be able to manufacture pharmaceuticals under and radio pharmaceuticals, a specialized form of pharmaceuticals under under the kind of strict good manufacturing practice standards that are necessary. All of that, what we found, really needs to grow organically. I feel like we've done a good job now at seeding this with a foundational production and distribution site that's really meant for our partners at Fortis Research Institute. But that gives the industry a place to take a foothold that can help to grow that organically, where the supply chain for the feedstocks to be able to make these radiopharmaceuticals can be built within India, and that includes isotope supply for the radioisotopes that are used for this specialized form of cancer therapy. Is particularly one of those items that really needs to grow organically within India. So we're excited about the opportunity to be able to help in making these medicines available in all markets, and India is a special form of that, or a special place for that, where we feel like we're making some good progress.
Thank you, Michael. And then to Jennifer, can you speak to what worked well for your company and some challenges that you might have faced during the time frame after the decision had been made to locate in Iowa and the actual opening of the Urbandale office? Can you give us a little bit more insight into how that process went for your company?
Yeah, sure. Once the decision was made to actually open the office here in Iowa and Urbandale, one of the things that worked really well was really the support system around us. Iowa is such a relationship-driven business environment. Having grown up in Iowa, you really feel that here in Iowa. And it was a tremendous support for me as I learned what to do to open a global business here in North America. It really mattered when you're trying to establish a presence, hire people, get operational quickly. We really found people that were really willing to make those connections, answer questions, help us understand that local landscape for a global company. The challenges are probably the same challenges that most growing companies face. You have to translate global strategy into practical execution here in the US. And not only did that mean finding the right location, but building the right team, setting up systems, getting a local bank account and registrations, and making sure the global organization and the local business then is aligned. There's always some learning that happens when you bridge cultures. There's been a lot of that, and having been in the US and in Iowa for 10 years for an Indian company, we continue learning about each other. And so working together multiculturally is certainly a challenge, but it's also such a reward for us as well. One of the other challenges is certainly the time zone. It's sometimes very challenging to connect. It's either early in the mornings or late at night. But business expectations between India and the US, is so well aligned. It's just about communication and getting aligned there. But it's really a strength for CFS. We are used to working globally, and we have learned how to be clear and practical and flexible. Opening the Urbandale office here in Iowa really gave us more than an address. It gave us this home base for customers, for employees, for our partners here in North America. We just really enjoy hosting anybody who wants to come to the North America office here in Iowa.
Thanks, Jennifer. That's really interesting to think through. Krishnan, as you help your member companies in India, your biotechnology companies, navigate through potentially entering the US, whether it be to collaborate on further developing their technology in the US market, or maybe even physically expanding to the US, what do you tell them, and how do you assist them or provide resources to those companies?
Okay, specifically for companies who are interested in setting up offices or business in US, that's what you are asking?
Yes, or collaborating in the US, maybe further developing their technology, perhaps collaborating. For example, I think one of your member companies actually came over for a pitch competition not too long ago, and they then spoke with the university here with Iowa State after they talked with some other folks about who they should talk to about, maybe doing a trial with their crop here in Iowa. So that kind of thing. How do you counsel your companies on connections? I know you have connections not just with Iowa, but other states too, and maybe assisting those companies with collaborations or other infrastructure or things that they need to be able to do that expansion.
Yeah, good point. First and foremost, I would say that such a collaboration is only now evolving. And there are a lot of startups who are very, very keen on actually having such collaborations. And what we do, as you precisely mentioned, associations like Iowa and then again New Jersey Association of Biotechnology. Likewise, we have an arrangement all over the globe, a few of the leading associations like yours. That is the first point of contact we do, give the startups or the companies interested the link. Of course, there are certain areas where we also try to have the Indian embassies, for example, located in these places to also facilitate certain things whenever there is a big investment or an opportunity, to specifically see how the Indian embassy can support them is what we do. Also, I should say that with my own contact, for example, if you're talking about a bio-industrial sort of collaboration, either in industrial biotechnology or bioagriculture sort of thing, we have our own organizations where we work for to give them the link, to give them an understanding of what is the opportunity and what one could look at it. So precisely that's what we do, but I should repeat that this is evolving and it's gaining momentum in a big way, where actually a lot of startups are now showing interest for collaborations. And I should say for the past 2-3 years, similar to what we are doing now with Iowa, it is increasing. And I would say that it's growing positively. But I don't have anything negative so far about the challenges as such to go over from India to any of the countries outside India. On the contrary, if you're okay, I would like to just tell Kavi about his challenges related to trade seed protection point of view. I would say that ABLE will be happy to support them to reach out to the government on this particular input. No doubt Kavi would have already done that, but as an association, it will be far more effective for us to support. And I should tell that the government's willingness to understand. I have a recent specific investment, a very big investment, which is going to happen in the manufacture of enzymes and microbes very soon. An announcement is going to come, wherein we have been given an opportunity by various departments to look at what are the regulatory issues you're facing, which probably might delay the overall process of manufacturing. And the government is willing to look at it. And I should also tell you, through Department of Biotechnology, it has been facilitated. Tomorrow, I have a meeting online with the Prime Minister's office to talk about an investment like this and what needs to change to attract more investment. So all I wanted to tell you, things are changing. There is a willingness to understand and learn. It's a question of how do we navigate, and I'm sure ABLE can support that to anybody who's interested.
Perfect. Thank you, Krishna. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. That's great. We're solving problems on this call. I love that. And I think kind of we're running on up on our time here. I want to leave some time for questions, but I do want to end with a question, and I want to end with a question for each panelist to address that as you look to the future, what excites you about the potential for your business or your organization, whether it's headquartered in India or the US? And I think we'll start with Jennifer.
Sure. What excites me is really the opportunity to connect strong science with real customer needs here in the US. Food protection, shelf life extension, clean label, antioxidants, animal nutrition, sustainable ingredient solutions are really all areas where the market in North America is moving very quickly. Customers are asking for solutions that perform, but they also want more transparency, more flexibility, and many cases, more plant-based or label-friendly options. And Camlin is really well positioned because we've got manufacturing, technical capability, market presence across the region here in the US. The India-US connection is especially exciting because both countries really bring strengths, real strengths. India has very strong innovation and manufacturing base for the US entity, and the US, especially Iowa, has deep agricultural, food, and bioscience expertise. So bringing those strengths together, there's a lot of room to build practical solutions that can scale. For North America, I can really see continued opportunity to grow our customer base, expand our technical support, not only in India, but also here in the US, and bring more of Camlin's global capabilities into this market as we continue to expand into other areas of shelf life extension. So it's just a super exciting time to be part of Camlin and to be part of an Indian company in the US.
Thank you, Jennifer. Michael.
Wow, that's a really easy question for me to answer. So, as someone who I think, as an academic entrepreneur, I've often been called, who, started a company based upon what I thought was some really sound science that told us that we could make a big impact on cancer patients and we could improve lives through new technologies. I'm just really excited about the kind of results that we're getting from our clinical trials right now, where tumors are shrinking and patients are benefiting, and the company is expanding in an emerging area of cancer therapy that is truly becoming a pillar of cancer care, not only in North America, but globally. And the expansion of this idea to China, to the European Union, to South Korea, and to India is, kind of a dream come true for me. And the idea that we can make this, that we can work within the economics of all these different areas where, the healthcare economics are very different in each one of those regions that I just talked about, to be able to make these new medicines available for these patients where, initially where other therapies start to fall short, but now as we move forward and develop more detailed understanding of what we're doing, we find that these are going to be what I would say primary cancer care solutions for patients who need them so desperately. So I'm super excited about the potential for this to grow globally, and it's something that I'm really proud of. And thanks for the opportunity to be here today to talk about it.
Well, you should be proud. It's amazing. And we're happy that you started in Iowa and you're still here. So we're excited about that too. And then Kavi, can you answer what are you looking forward to or excited about for PowerPollen?
Yeah, I mean, in general, we're really excited about just, the general trajectory towards improving production yield, improving land utilization, and just we're in the process of executing a fundraise. And so the next 2 to 3 years of really focusing on not only improving our biology, but more importantly, being able to truly bring our biology to global markets through precision application and lower cost mechanization that operates in markets like India is just really exciting, right? It really allows us to move the needle, not only from a financial and commercial perspective, but most importantly, going back to our mission, it really does allow us to move the needle and make impact on feeding and fueling the world, right? And again, that gets me excited every morning, gets our team excited, our board excited, et cetera. So we're excited about that and really excited about the opportunity, God willing, in the next 6 to 12 months to accelerate operations in India. And Krishna, I will reach out to you regarding helping us in advancing, maybe, strengthening some of the IP framework in India. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kavi. And then Christian, will end with you on this one too. What are you excited about for biotechnology in India, and maybe specifically some of the sectors you mentioned at the beginning of our discussion?
Yeah. First and the foremost, just would like to recollect when the alternative protein gained momentum in US, and then the Indian innovation was the sought-after destination, both for innovation and manufacturing. That momentum is gaining in a big way, and we in the Department of Biotechnology and Association are very keen on looking forward to this opportunity to make India as the global hub for innovation and manufacturing, We are working towards that. And I'm really excited. This is what in the next 5 to 10 years, we will be working towards that. Collaborations like this are going to further facilitate our overall ambition for the simple reason it's not that one has solution for everything. This is where we could probably exchange with what Iowa has got and the opportunities to collaborate together and work together. And we are looking at India as a global leader in the biotech segment, which I'm quite positive and excited towards realizing the dream.
Thank you. Well, thank you to all of our panelists. And I think now we might move into some questions and answers. So if you have questions that you have not put into the chat, now would be the time to do that. And we'll try to field those as they come in, try to organize them as we can as well. And I saw just a couple of more logistical questions that looks like how can you connect with our speakers? And I know that that is the intention is to share the details post webinar with all of you for our speakers, and then also with especially IEDA, I believe we were able to share the slideshow as well from the beginning, so you have a reminder of what is Iowa, where is Iowa, what does Iowa do, and then also the on that slide, at the end of that slideshow is the information for IEDA, which is a great starting point for those of you. I saw a question about how do you connect with Iowa. You can certainly reach out to IEDA. Alan at IEDA is a great starting point to kind of get an entry point into the state of Iowa. And then also, of course, you could always reach out to me as well if you had questions about biotech or how to connect with biotech companies here in Iowa. And we'll also share all of the information about speakers with you in case you wanted to collaborate or connect with any of them individually. And I saw a question about, are there programs that within Iowa that support international education partnerships and workforce readiness initiatives in support of biosciences? And Alan, I know that you might have some thoughts here. I don't know if you want to start out, but I know also of one of our collaborators we're going to be working with Able actually to potentially do a cohort of companies that can connect directly with Iowa. It's a specific program that we're starting just in the early stages of working with our partner here called the Cultivation Corridor, and bringing that to Able and potentially the Able members. So we're working on something that could help in that regard, but I also wanted to leave time for Alan to potentially address that as well.
Certainly, yeah. Thank you, Jessica. Maybe I would tie that in. There was another question: what would be the eligibility of an Indian company to get these? Not quite clear what that is, but maybe if the topic is perhaps incentives, I did mention briefly the biorenewable chemicals. We do have a list of over 30 biorenewable chemicals would be available for that particular incentive. If your company is looking to establish new manufacturing operations in Iowa, we have other incentives, which would include refundable tax credits, certain sales tax refunds. We don't have as generous of incentives as India, as I have learned, but we think we can make up for that in other maybe areas. One of those incentives, and this ties into the first question, Jessica, would be training programs. Since the biosciences is such a large and dominant industry here in Iowa, we have a lot of training programs, often delivered through our system of 16 area community colleges. And chances are they have probably trained one of the manufacturing companies in perhaps the processes you need. But generally speaking, if you're wanting to know, if you do reach out to us about what you're looking for, if you could give some a little bit more clarification. What is it you do? What are you looking to achieve in the United States or Iowa? And I would just, since I have the floor here, I also, in working with companies, manufacturing companies, I realize it's a lot different a way to do business here. I have something called a New to Iowa USA letter that I will share with foreign companies who don't have experience in talking about wages, fringe benefits, taxes, trying to explain the American healthcare system, and a little bit about our incentives and so forth. Happy to do that, but I would point out, starting Monday, I'm on vacation for almost 2 weeks, so it might be a little while to get back to you. But hopefully that somewhat answers your question.
And then, Alan, I don't know if you have the ability to speak to the supply. Do we have opportunities to supply organic products? And I think that kind of gets more to trade almost than I'm not quite the expert on that, but I might
answer. I could answer that one,
Okay,
Jessica.
okay.
Our company does manufacture organic ingredients in India, and we export from India and import into the United States, and we do sell them here in the US. So certainly that can be done.
Very good. Thank you for answering that up front. I'm just trying to see what else has come in.
You did mention the universities, and I think maybe you might be a good resource. I mean, we touted the benefits of Iowa State University kind of in the agricultural area, University of Iowa, in the human side. They have a good contacts there in economic development. Sometimes you might be looking to collaborate on research. I'm not quite clear. You were on those trips. I think maybe some MOUs were signed with the universities, Jessica?
There was one that was signed with the university that the actually IDOL signed it. Secretary Nag signed an agreement with one of the universities there. Yes. And then I see Mary had asked, she has a question here. Does Iowa have a plug and play facility to set up biotech labs for Indian startups to expand there? I would say that probably this, go ahead, Alan, I don't want to step on your toes here.
I did mention, and Mike Roof, who I think a lot of you here in Iowa maybe know, he's with Iowa State University. As I mentioned earlier, they have this concept where they have kind of some shared services, shared office, but then in pods that are USDA approved manufacturing practices that a company could lease space. Happy to make those introductions. They hope to get 3, 4, 5 companies signed up. That's probably a little bit out there. As I mentioned, the different universities have research space, varying levels of wet lab space available. That's kind of hard to come by.
Yes, and I would say probably the best starting point within the universities, particularly the U of I and especially Iowa State, would probably be their research parks. And those are specifically designed to foster and grow startup companies. So those are frequently a great starting point for companies that are startups, whether you're based in Iowa or from outside. Okay. I don't think we have. There's one question, and I'm not sure how to answer that one. There's something about bioinformatics, and I don't. It just says, how is bioinformatics influenced? And I'm not sure who that one was for. And I honestly don't know the answer to that one myself. Are there any other questions?
If there are a few questions that we don't know, we can definitely figure out later and let them know.
Yes.
And we can also see Kavi's power has come back. So it's great to see Kavi on you. So, I mean, it would be great if you can say a few words so that now people can see you, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah, again, my apologies, but yes, it came back a little early. So, and again, yeah, I guess maybe the only thing I'd say is, again, is appreciate the opportunity. And again, we are very, very excited as a company to be able to expand and do more work in India. It's again, a huge market and huge opportunity to really make a difference in the world. So appreciate the chamber partnering with Iowa Bio and IEDA and putting this together. Really appreciate it.
Jessica, there's that question on VC. Do you want to handle that one?
So venture capital, there is there's actually a fund that is set up through the state that's called the Innoventure Fund, and that fund is a follow-on, as a co-investment fund that can invest in Iowa companies. So to get that money, you would need to be located here. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't be invested in by others, but some of the more Midwest-based venture capital is going to probably be focused on regional, or if you're based in Iowa. So that, with that caveat, there's a couple of specific different types of funds that we could talk through depending on what kind of company you are. And then I know that some of the folks on this call have a lot of experience seeking venture capital, so they may have some words of wisdom on that as well.
Yeah, maybe the only thing I'll add is, again, as we are currently going through a fundraise, there is a relative, globally it's small, but it is very active VC community here in Iowa. And again, with expertise in biotech and ag, it is an attractive market because you've got strategic investors who understand your business, understand the landscape, and see the value that it can bring, in particular, if you think about downstream synergies. Number two, if you look beyond the formal, whether it's kind of state-linked or kind of formal VC market, you do have a very active family office, high net worth individual investor community in the state, and again, in the broader Midwest, that again, understand the industry, understand biotech, and find it attractive. So there are very good opportunities to tap into liquidity here. It does exist. But again, it's got to be a strong value proposition, including value proposition for the state and the broader Midwestern market when you look at raising capital from the kind of the Iowa or regional and early stage to VC investor base.
Yeah, and I think I could add to that if it'd be all right. So, we're a company that grew in Iowa in a biotechnology. So we're a biotech company, so we're not raising money, but we're always raising money. And so we grew up here in Iowa, and that was one of the things that investors and business people told us when we first started, that we were going to struggle with raising capital in the Midwest in general. But we found, once the value proposition was clear, the location of the company became less and less and less and less important, to the point where we started to talk to investors about, keeping our discovery laboratory and growing our discovery programs right here in Iowa, along with a finished product production facility. And the cost per square foot of laboratory space for us to be able to build that operation became less of a controversy and more of an advantage of staying here. We also, as an Iowa company, I can say that we had tremendous support from the IADA for different programs that were available, and seed funding, as Kavi talked about, through high net worth individuals in the state to get the first part of the that seed and angel funding round that helped us to create a business that was investable. Was definitely here in Iowa, with knowledgeable investors that understood what we were up against, and still made a bet on us. And so it can be done right here in the Midwest.
One last thought there before we close. There are seed tax credits. So we're not calling them angel investor tax credits anymore, but there are tax credits as well that can incentivize investment in really early stage companies here in the state too. And with that, I think we've answered all of the questions.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Jessica and Mary, for taking us through the question answers. That actually makes the life of a little easier, because y'all are the subject matter expert, and it's always good to hear such industry experts all together on the same platform. Thank you once again, and our sincere thanks to all our panelists for engaging an insightful discussion, and to our participants for their active and thoughtful questions throughout the session. If in case there are any questions that you did not think of now, well, this is especially for the participants, we will be sharing the the recording of the webinar. If at that time, if you think of any questions, please do write to us. We will share it with the speakers, and I'm sure they will be more than happy to answer those. So on behalf of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and the Iowa Biotechnology Association, our esteemed panelists, and all our partners, I extend our sincere gratitude to each one of you for joining us today. We hope today's discussion has provided some valuable insights and opened some understanding and opened new ventures for collaboration between biosciences of the two nations. So thank you once again, everybody, for your time and your participation, and very, very sincere and heartfelt thanks to all the panelists for joining us. So people joining from US, have a great day. People joining from India, have a great evening.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all.